The morning I drove out to Clearwater Beach, I was looking for quiet. Not the kind you get by turning off a radio, but the kind that settles in your chest when nothing is expected of you. I had been living that way for a while. Steady job, same running route, same coffee shop on weekends. I told myself it was enough. Most days it was. Still, there were moments when my apartment felt too still, like it was waiting for something I hadn't invited in. That Saturday came early in the summer. The sky was already bright when I parked. The air smelled like salt and sunscreen, and the breeze off the water made me breathe a little deeper without trying. I carried my coffee and a paperback down the sand until I found a spot away from the busier paths. A low wall, a towel, a place where I could sit and disappear for a while. I leaned back and opened my book. The waves rolled in slow and steady, like they had all the time in the world. I remember thinking that if life stayed right there, just like that, I wouldn't argue. Then I noticed her. She was walking fast along the shoreline, not jogging, not strolling, moving like she had somewhere to be but didn't know where it was. Her dark hair was pulled into a loose ponytail, and she wore a plain white shirt and jeans rolled at the ankle like the beach had not been part of her plan. She kept looking over her shoulder. At first I told myself it was nothing. People bring all kinds of worries to the water, but when she got closer, my stomach tightened. It was Vanessa Mitchell. At work, she was the kind of boss who never wasted a word. Calm, sharp, always in control. Meetings stopped when she spoke. People listened. I had never seen her flustered or unsure. But the woman walking toward me did not look like that person. Her face was pale. Her shoulders were tense. Her eyes scanned the sand like she was bracing for something to come out of nowhere. Seeing her like that felt wrong, like catching a glimpse behind a door that was meant to stay closed. I almost looked away. Then I saw the man. He stood farther down the beach, tall, dressed in dark clothes that didn't belong under the Florida sun. His eyes were fixed on her, and his pace matched hers. When he called her name, the sound carried over the waves. "Vanessa!" She flinched, changed direction, and then her eyes met mine. For a single moment she froze, and in that moment I saw fear, real fear, the kind you don't practice. She walked straight toward me. I stood up without thinking, brushing sand from my shorts. She reached me, breath shallow, and leaned close as if we were old friends. "Ethan," she whispered, barely moving her lips. "Please help me, that's my ex. He won't leave me alone." Before I could answer, she took my hand. Her palm was cold, her grip was firm. "Pretend we're together," she said, "please." I nodded. Sometimes you don't choose the moment. The moment chooses you. I guided her down to my towel and sat beside her, close enough that anyone watching would see what they wanted to see. My heart was beating harder than it should have. Not from attraction, from the sudden weight of responsibility. The man stopped a short distance away, far enough to pretend he wasn't watching, close enough to make sure we knew he was. He pulled out his phone and stared at it, but his eyes kept lifting toward us. I slipped an arm around Vanessa's shoulders. Her body was tense at first, then slowly leaned into me like she was testing whether I would stay. "Just breathe," I murmured. "Talk about anything." So we did. We talked about the weather, the water temperature. I mentioned the book in my hand and passed it to her. She flipped a page and gave a small laugh that didn't quite reach her eyes. From the outside, it probably looked easy. Natural. Two people sharing a quiet morning. Inside, my thoughts were racing. After a minute, Vanessa shifted. Her leg brushed mine. Then she whispered, "He's still watching. We need to make this more convincing." Before I could ask what she meant, she said, "Don't move." She settled onto my lap. Her arms slipped around my neck like she'd done it 1,000 times before. Her weight pressed into me, warm and real. I kept my face calm even as my body reacted before my mind caught up. My hands rested on her waist, careful, steady. "You okay?" I asked softly. She nodded, but I could feel the tremble in her through the thin fabric of her shirt. "Thank you," she whispered. The man edged a little closer. I lifted my eyes and met his. I didn't glare. I didn't challenge him. I just held his gaze and didn't look away. After a long moment, he turned and walked toward the parking lot, lingering like a shadow that hadn't decided to leave yet. Vanessa let out a shaky breath against my shoulder. "He won't give up easily," she said. "Stay here as long as you need," I replied. "I'm not going anywhere." She lifted her face and looked at me then. Really looked. Not like a boss. Not like a woman in trouble. Just a person seeing another person show up. And then my phone buzzed on the towel beside us. Unknown number. The message was short. Tell your little boyfriend to back off. I didn't move right away. I didn't want her to feel the shift in my body, the way tension crept up my spine. I slid the phone closer to my thigh and typed back with my thumb. Who is this? The reply came almost instantly. You know who, leave her alone. I glanced toward the parking lot. The man stood near the edge, half turned toward us, his phone still in his hand. He wasn't hiding. He wanted to be seen. Vanessa felt the change in me before I said anything. Her fingers tightened behind my neck. What is it? She whispered. I turned the screen just enough for her to see. Her face drained of color. That's him, she said quietly. He uses different numbers, burner phones. He always finds a way. Something settled in my chest then. Not panic, not anger. A kind of steady resolve I didn't know I had. We're going to do this the smart way, I said. No scenes, no reactions. She nodded, though her eyes were bright with held-back tears. Families started to arrive at the beach. Kids ran past us with buckets. A couple laid out chairs nearby. The place filled with noise and normal life, and somehow that made things feel worse. He blended in easier now. After a few minutes, Vanessa spoke again. If he thinks I'm alone when I leave, he'll follow me. I looked around. A public place. Cameras. People. We'll go get coffee, I said. Crowded, and we walked together. She considered it, then nodded. Okay, but don't leave my side. We stood slowly, like there was no rush in the world. She kept her hand in mine as we walked toward the boardwalk. I didn't look back at first. Then I did. He followed. Not close. Not far. Every time we stopped, he stopped. The cafe near the boardwalk was already busy. We took a table outside. Vanessa ordered a latte, her knee touching mine under the table like she needed the reminder. I'm sorry, she said, staring into her cup. You probably came here for peace. I shook my head. You don't need to apologize. She looked up at me then, and for the first time that morning her eyes softened. Most people told her to handle things on her own, she said. I told her she shouldn't have to. She didn't answer. She just sat there, breathing, like the words had finally landed somewhere safe. We stayed at the cafe longer than either of us planned. Long enough for the sun to climb higher. Long enough for the tension in her shoulders to ease just a little. Every few minutes, her eyes drifted toward the edge of the boardwalk, checking. At one point, he appeared again, standing near the corner, watching. I met his gaze, calm and steady. He looked away first. When we finally left, I offered to walk her to her car. She didn't argue. In the parking lot, her hands shook as she unlocked the door. Thank you, she said quietly. I don't know what I would have done. She paused, then looked at me like she hated needing to ask. Can you drive me home? Just to be safe. I nodded, and of course. The drive was quiet. The radio played low. She stared out the window like she was trying to slow her thoughts. At work, she said after a while, I'm always in control. But after him, I stopped trusting people. Being alone felt safer. I understood more than I wanted to admit. I get that, I said. After my breakup, routine felt easier than risk. She studied me for a moment. You hide it well. So do you. When we reached her building, she didn't get out right away. She pulled out her phone and handed it to me. My number, she said, in case something happens. I saved it. When I looked up, her eyes were locked on mine. The air between us felt heavy, like something unspoken was pressing to the surface. I'll be here, I said, anytime. Her phone lit up in her hand before she could reply. I know where you live, I'm not done. Her breathing changed, shallow, tight. I knew he would do this, she whispered. I covered her hand with mine. You're not alone anymore. She looked at the building, then back at me. We need to report him. Today, I said. She hesitated, fear and pride crossing her face. Then she nodded once. But I can't do it alone. You won't, I promised. The police station was cold and bright. She told her story clearly. I stayed beside her, close enough that she could feel me there. When we left, she looked exhausted, but lighter. In the car, she said, Thank you for not treating me like I'm fragile. You're not fragile, I said. You're just tired. She looked at me then, and that look stayed with me long after we parted. For a few days after that, things were quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you afraid to hope. Vanessa sent short messages, small updates, nothing dramatic, just enough to let me know she was okay. No sign of him today. I slept a little better last night. I tried to keep my replies steady, but inside I stayed alert. Men like him didn't vanish just because someone spoke up. We talked more too. Not about him. About life. About the things we never said in meetings. She told me about growing up in a small Florida town, about working twice as hard to be taken seriously. I told her about my breakup, how being alone started to feel safer than trying again. One night she sent me a photo of a sunset from her balcony. The sky was washed in soft pink and orange. I forgot sunsets could feel like this, she wrote. I stared at that message longer than I should have. It wasn't really about the sky. Then the storm came. It rolled in fast the way Florida storms do. Rain hit my windows hard. Thunder rattled the walls. I was sitting on my couch, book open, pretending everything was fine when my phone rang. Ethan, her voice came through thin and shaking. He's here, he's outside my door. My chest went cold. Lock it, don't open it, call 911 right now. I am, she said, he's pounding on it. I'm coming. The drive felt endless. Rain blurred the lights. My hand stayed tight on the wheel. When I pulled up, I saw him, standing at her door, soaked, shouting like he had a right to be there. Leave, I said, stepping out into the rain. He turned, eyes sharp. You think you can stop this? Police are on the way. Sirens sounded in the distance. He hesitated, then backed away, still staring like he wanted to remember my face. His tires screamed as he drove off. Vanessa opened the door moments later, her face crumpled when she saw me. I pulled her into my arms under the awning. I was so scared, she whispered. You're safe, I said, I'm here. Later, when the street was quiet again, she asked, Can you stay tonight? I nodded. I slept on the couch, barely sleeping at all. When morning came, she stood in the kitchen making coffee, tired but steadier. Today, she said, I'm filing for a protective order. I took her hand. I'll go with you. She looked at me like no one had ever shown up that way before. The week that followed felt heavier than anything before it. Paperwork, statements, waiting rooms that smelled like old coffee and disinfectant. Vanessa answered questions with a calm voice, even when her hands shook. I sat beside her every time, close enough that she didn't have to look for me. Jack tried to fight the order. He showed up angry and loud, acting like he was the one wronged. The judge didn't respond to his performance. The messages, the threats, the reports spoke clearly. The order was granted. It should have felt like an ending. Instead, it was just a shift. At work, the whispers started. People stopped talking when I walked into the room. Looks lingered. An email from HR landed in my inbox asking me to come by that afternoon. I sat in the chair across from the desk and felt my stomach tighten. Perception matters, the HR manager said. We need professional boundaries. I walked out feeling like something honest had been twisted into something ugly. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, the silence louder than usual. I wondered if stepping back would protect her. Or me. Or if it would only make everything worse. Then there was a knock at the door. Vanessa stood there, damp from the rain, holding 2 wrapped sandwiches like she'd walked through the storm on purpose. I didn't want you sitting here alone, she said. She set the food down and looked at me, serious and steady. Are you going to let them scare you away from me? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Wait until Monday. Her face hardened when she saw it. He found your number. HR already pulled me in, I admitted. They talked to me too, she said, like I'm the problem. We sat at the kitchen table and made a plan. Screenshots, voicemails, dates. She organized everything with a focus that wasn't cold anymore. It was brave. The next Monday, HR called us both in. Vanessa spoke clearly, firmly. She placed documents on the desk and said she would not be shamed for being harassed, and I would not be punished for helping her stay safe. The room went quiet. When we walked out, she reached for my hand in the hallway. She didn't pull away when others saw. A month later, we heard he had left the state. The silence that followed felt like a door closing. We didn't make a show of what came next, we just started choosing each other. Quiet dinners. Walks by the water. Evenings where she leaned into me and let herself rest. Fear didn't disappear, but it stopped running the show. We went back to the beach about a month later, not early this time. Late afternoon when the sun sits lower and the air softens. The crowds had thinned. The noise felt farther away. The kind of hour where people walk slower without realizing it. We didn't talk much at first. We just walked along the shoreline, shoes in our hands, the cool sand pressing between our toes. The water moved in and out, steady as breathing. Vanessa stopped near the place where I had been sitting that first morning. The low wall was still there, the same stretch of water. She looked out for a long moment. "I think about that day more than I should," she said. "I do too," I admitted. She smiled, but it wasn't playful. It was thoughtful. I used to believe needing someone meant I failed somehow, like strength meant carrying everything alone. She turned toward me then. The light caught her face in a way that made her look softer, not weaker, just real. "And now?" I asked. "Now I know there's a difference between being alone and being safe," she said. "And they're not the same thing." I understood that more than I expected. I had built a quiet life after my breakup. Told myself I liked it that way. But standing there, with her hand in mine and the sound of the water around us, I realized how much of that quiet had been fear dressed up as peace. She reached up and touched my cheek, her fingers warm from the sun. "You didn't save me," she said. "You stood with me. That mattered." I shook my head. "You were brave long before I showed up." She laughed softly. "Maybe, but it helped not being brave alone." We stood there until the sun dipped low and the sky turned gold and pale blue. No rush, no plans, just the feeling of being where we were meant to be. Later that night, back at my place, she fell asleep beside me on the couch, her breathing slow and steady. I stared at the ceiling and thought about how different the silence felt now. It wasn't empty anymore. It was shared. And sometimes that's all it takes to change everything. If this story stayed with you, linger a little longer. There's always another quiet moment waiting, somewhere beyond the porch.